All right, everyone. Let's jump into video number 4 of the Building a Campaign step-by-step video series. Today's bullet points, we're going to cover Tell Them a Secret and grabbing hold of one or more backstories. Oh, it's a good cup today. Okay. Tell them a secret. Give something to your players, something that they can hold on to, something that they are excited about, something that they can look forward to, something that they might fear. But of course, don't give them all the nuance, all the detail. You know, the king's daughter is a vampire. Yes, if that comes from a guy that's always spitting off BS, whatever, right? But here's the thing. And you'll notice how these two do weave into one another a little bit. Tell them a secret and grab hold of one or more backstories. Perhaps one of your characters, one of your PCs, is very heavily inspired by Van Helsing, right? They want to be a Warhammer Fantasy-esque witch hunter. The hat and all. Okay? They are paladins. They're clerics. They're anti-undead. They hate and despise anything that has that supernatural undead element to it of like vampires or werewolves. That secret, you know, the king's daughter is actually a vampire. Is she? If she is, can the PCs do anything about it? At level 1, okay, what can they do about it? If she truly is she a part of a coven? Is she a newly formed vampire? Is she the vampire? You know, the one that, I don't know, however that works. It's D&D, right? Make it up. She was born that way. But what does that mean if there's now rumors or stories that the king is very sick, he doesn't have any children, but it's possibly going to take, she's going to take over? Is that how kingdoms of undead are formed? So on and so forth. But notice, you have these questions. You may have noticed through all of these videos so far, at the very bottom, it's kind of ghosted out a little bit. It says, take all the notes. Take copious notes. You don't have to be the most elegant note taker with appropriate indentation and bullet points and things like this. I do that quite often because I love to lay out sort of my thoughts in kind of official print format. So I'm always going way over the top in all of my presentation and even my journaling. But take notes. Write everything down. When you offer that secret to your players, sit back for a moment. Let them ask questions. Say, whatever you guys ask me, give me a moment. I'm going to write it down. Right? Type it, whatever. You have your iPad in front of you. Jot it down. Give them the best answers you can, right? You should, as the DM, know what the validity of that secret. You should know the details of that secret. You're coming up with it, okay? But obviously, don't give that to them right away. Now, you need to weave through, and you'll come about figuring this out as you gain more experience as a dungeon master of whether you're going to reveal that secret at the end of the session. And that might be an interesting take on it all. Tell them a secret early on. Maybe that's a part of the first 5 minutes of the session. That's a good way to get some excitement if it's something major. I mean, hell, that could have been a secret where I mentioned, if you watch that video, where one of you is undead, one of you is a ghost. And then you give some sort of a big reveal, right? But I like to kind of have it as a cliffhanger. Tell them a secret, you guys win the final battle. You approach into the city and you notice the buildings look a little off-kilter. And you heard that the druid goddess is dead. I mean, that's sort of the catalyst for our current adventure and story, right? The druid god has died, and what are the ramifications of that now that nature is awry, or a god of evil is now stepping up in the pantheon to take over nature? So now you're not going to get the benefits, the good parts of nature. You're just going to get catastrophe. Cataclysmic, almost world-ending natural disasters. But you've finished. You've delved into the cave. You've conquered the beast. You're heading back to the city for a bit of respite, to get your rewards. To hear the cheers of the crowd as you walk down the streets, almost parade style. Flowers will be showered upon you. You are victorious, but as you approach the city, you notice all the buildings are leaning in, a bit off-kilter, as though their very foundation is somewhat uprooted. And an old hermit comes up to you, an old man, the farmer that's lived way out in the distance. He approaches and he says to you, "You know, these buildings are leaving. Something's pushing through the ground. I think she's back." And he indicates to you that the Druid goddess is back. When she was killed and removed from the pantheon, she just went deep down into the darkest areas of the earth, where the heat in the core lies. But that heat, like keeping a baby warm, created this foundation of healing energy. And from that, she was reborn. And the Druid goddess is back. And now all hell is going to break loose, because now there's going to be a fight between her and the god that took over her title, that took over her domains. That is the rumor. That's why the buildings are off kilter. The soil itself is disrupted. The earth is rumbling. And now there's going to be a fight between the two main religions in your world. A religion that each of you follow. I'll see you guys next week. Right? Leave it there. Tell them a secret. Most importantly, though, write down all the notes. Because it's answering questions, either right there on the fly, or when you're in prep time, you can sit back and just look and read the notes. That informs gameplay. It lets you know, going back to bullet point 2, like I talk about, always goes back to, that's how you start figuring out what to prep as you start to answer those things. Okay? So tell them a secret. It's a really good way to just build suspense. And the ending of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, I mean, we knew, obviously, there's more to come, but kind of that abrupt ending, it makes us want more, right? We're just looking for the trailer to come out the next year of like, oh, here it comes, yes! You know, when the Marvel movies have the next step is coming. Secrets can really do that, okay? Before I jump to the next one, the last one, the other thing secrets are really good at, they constantly remind players that they don't know everything about this world. There's going to be more secrets early on when players haven't. The world is shrunk when your players are level 1. They don't have worldly travel capability and teleportation magic. Sure, in something like an Eberron, they're using trains and they can cover great distances, but the world feels small and short. It's a trek. It's something that they have to think about and plan for to move 30 miles to the nearby city. Right? Overland travel, slow movement, difficult terrain, it's freezing, they need cold weather gear. Do they have mounts? Are they walking? What are they going to get ambushed by? I know I just made a video on random encounters. So the world shrinks. What's happening way off in Sharn when you're in the Mournland or Drome or over there in the Maror Holds? Who the hell knows? Right? It's all kind of secrets, but that's the way that you can start. The other thing is, as a DM, you can start putting the feelers out. Almost like present a few secrets in bullet points. I know I said at least include one. Just make sure you have one. But you can almost create a few bullet points of secrets. Perhaps 5. And see which one your players kind of ask more questions about. That's what they're more excited about. That will indicate if they want to go to Sharn instead of you feeling like you're forcing them to go to Sharn. So use that to create a sense of wonder and mystery. Those are two very powerful words in the world, like real life, right? That bring out the childlike mind, imagination, that excitement and that passion is wonder and mystery. Why are ghost hunters in real life, or the prospect of a haunted hospital always so exciting, or graveyards, or, you know what I mean? Like the things we don't know, the unknown, the mysteries. That's what brings about that wanderlust and that sense of wonder. So tell your group a secret. Okay, the 8th bullet point. Grab hold of one or more backstories. Always try and lean into at least one of your players' backstories. A good thing you can do is after you better damn well read them all. I don't care. If it's too much, just be honest. Be upfront with your players. Guys, don't send me more than a page. I got too much to do. We're playing in Eberron, and I don't know a lot about it. I've got to read that whole book. Don't send me 18 pages of backstory. Everyone give me at least a few sentences about just the idea of who your character is, where they came from, and why they are the way they are. Or just tell it to me. But if you're going to write a backstory, no more than a page. Read them all and see if there's any consistencies. See if there's, 3 of them all are searching for a lost loved one. Someone important in their life, a sibling, a father, a mother. 3 players. All, maybe they worked on it together. I mean, you can ask. You're the DM. Don't blur lines between PC and player. Ask people, hey, how much of this backstory has come out? I'm telling you right now, you guys are all starting where you spent 3 weeks together in-game. How much have you let out? Right? At some point, like, hey, why are you adventuring? I'm looking for someone. Hey, why are you adventuring? I'm looking for someone. Those are the 2 orcs. Why are you adventuring? I can't find my mother. That's your gnome. Oh, we're all on the same page then. We're all maybe we're searching for the same person. But figure out how you might be able to weave some backstories together, because now you're just including more players, right? You have to weave through the stuff I talked about in one of my videos about attention, so that you're not changing the entirety of your campaign, the course of your story arc, to fulfill all the things that one PC wants to accomplish through their backstory, because then you kind of make this game about them. Unless every player, that's why it's good to kind of blur those lines between, don't just keep everything PC or in-game mode. Talk about it as real-life players. If all the real-life players are like, you know what, I'm not a veteran role player, they're kind of shy. Andy is the best player in the group. He's always the one that's sort of the de facto leader anyway. Whatever kind of way his character wants to go, I'll just follow along. He always brings about cool excitement, and then the way that you, Mr. DM, weave through that person's single backstory, it ends up creating some cool content that we can be excited about, right? Because also, give yourself room for their backstories to kind of change, or I should say, as you weave through the characters' backstories and bring it into and incorporate it into your world as a DM and your story, notice how the characters change as they react. Maybe something they were looking for, they no longer give a damn anymore. Maybe they're changing, and the things that were part of their backstory, that's the essence of character development, right? Growth. There was something in their backstory that was important to them, and now they don't care anymore. Right? I've seen a story where a character was searching for all the weapons. That was it. That was their backstory. Why do you adventure? That's what I love, though. I love the ones of just the simple, when I offer an adventure hook, what is it about your character or their backstory or their history that would make them say, I'm on, I'm in, I'm okay to open the door. Let's go on this adventure. Because they're the ones that are easier to latch on. They're not the ones that I got to kind of keep poking and prodding and saying, dude, do you even want to play tonight? Are you excited? What's going on? You know what I mean? And I've had one character, I'm looking for anything that's legendary or artifact, I want them all. I want the Hammer of Thunderbolts. I want the Rod of Lordly Might. I want Sword of Kos. I want Hand and Eye of Vecna. I want to find, that's what I do. Like, I'm an artifact relic hunter. And they met a character, a PC, that was trying to play like a monk that had some bad history in their backstory. Really traumatic past. And they became almost pacifists. Like, they were going a lot more towards this Zen, Buddha, more mindfulness, meditative, spiritual. They became very good healers, but they never wanted to deal damage. And they started to use the monk elements of, like, weapons were abhorrent to them. They were like, I don't want a lot of knickknacks and, I don't want weapons of war around me. And this relic hunter became so closely attached to that monk that they changed their backstory. They stopped wanting to hunt. They knew that searching for, which is often the case, artifacts. These things are very powerful, right? Sword of Kos, Hand and Eye of Vecna, Deck of Many Things. Horrible things come from owning and having these powerful weapons among you. And this player changed their backstory. But notice, that basically sells you on why that 8th bullet point, grab hold of one or more backstories, is so important. Your PCs drive the game for you. They help you decide what to create. Once you get your PC's backstories, they now can become your inspirations. You see, you read that, the backstory of a monk, why he became more of a pacifist. He was a world-class badass martial artist. And yes, he still has the ability, because I did mention you want to have some capability in combat. You want to have something to contribute when the DM says roll initiative. But he was just sort of the healer, right? He ended up multi-classing into like cleric or something like this, life cleric monk. If they were in jail or they got all their weapons taken away, the monk was a badass. He was very good unarmed fighting, but he hated weapons. He didn't like combat. But in that monk's backstory, it started to give me some things that I would lean into and be like, you know what, I'm really inspired by. Like, that's a really cool take on it. I love that. But now you're using that versus the Dracolich, versus the undead, versus the necromancy as a bit of your background or your inspiration. But as that starts to weave into the game, that player that made the monk finds so much worth and value and excitement because they're going to know, man, this guy's really leaning into my backstory a lot. I'll leave this video with this sort of statement, if I can elegantly put it. And this is sort of my own quote, I guess. Don't just let your players become excited about their characters. When you as the DM show just as much excitement about the characters in your world as your players, as the ones who built them, that's when your game will start to shine. That's when your table will thrive and flourish. Probably the greatest credit that I have that sort of validates not just my take on how I do things and the appreciation my players show for how much effort I put into this in 40 years. Life has always been in the way. I've gone off to the military. I've married, kids, everyone else at my table. We're all older. A lot of the players at my table are in my age group. 30 years. 25 years. Same group keeps showing up. Same people keep showing up. 6 hours, trudging through my shit. People keep showing up. I have too many people. I have more people than... there's people sort of on a waiting list of, let me know when you start your next game, I want to play. Those friends will go off, my family members, cousins. Dude, can my best friend join our game? You gotta play with my cousin Rich. Doesn't mean I'm outstanding, wonderful, whatever. But I understand how important it is how important that character is when they create it. That's who they're coming to the table with. That's their persona. That's who they want to invest into your world with. And when you can show that my story is exciting to me, but you know what's most important? What you want to do. When you can do that, that's the, in my humble opinion, that's the epitome of you ascending to the next tier of Dungeon Masterhood. Whatever that means. Because I'll be honest, you need to be excited, but everything else is just ego, pride, and bullshit. This is not your game. This is not your world. It's theirs. Because last time I checked, I can plan all day and tell the story, but if no one at the table wants to listen, you're just playing solo board games at that point. That's it. I'll see you guys in a little bit.